Kate always believed that the heart could guide a life better than any well-laid plan. Growing up in a modest household, she nurtured dreams of a love so profound that it would overcome every obstacle. Her childhood was filled with laughter, late-night conversations, and a yearning for something greater. Yet, her brother Richard, pragmatic, ambitious, and fiercely protective, always cautioned her against decisions made solely by emotion. Even as a child, Richard's words had a weight that Kate could not ignore entirely. Now, as an adult, that dissonance between heart and head threatened to tear the family apart. It was during a warm, breezy afternoon in early spring when fate introduced Kate to James. He was unlike anyone she had ever met. A kind, soft-spoken black man with a quiet strength in his eyes that belied the hardships of his past. His gentle smile and sincere manner resonated with Kate instantly. James carried himself with humility, and even though he had little to his name, his determination was evident in every word he spoke and every action he took. Their meeting felt like an inevitability, a moment suspended in time when the universe seemed to align their destinies. However, the initial euphoria was tempered by the looming presence of Richard's disapproval. Richard had always seen life through the lens of wealth and status. In his eyes, stability was the foundation of happiness, and James, with his humble beginnings and modest means, was unworthy of Kate's future. His warnings were laced with a bitterness born of a lifetime of watching those he cared for make mistakes. He saw James as a mirage, a charming illusion that could never withstand the harsh realities of life. Despite Richard's stern admonitions, Kate found herself irresistibly drawn to James. Every conversation with him revealed layers of resilience, passion, and a deep-seated commitment to overcoming adversity. Their moments together were filled with shared dreams, whispered hopes, and plans for a future where love conquered all. As the day faded into night, Kate's heart was already pledged to a man who had so little by worldly measure, but everything that truly mattered: integrity, warmth, and an unwavering resolve. In that delicate balance between youthful idealism and pragmatic caution, Kate's choice began to crystallize. The stage was set for a battle of values, where the intangible worth of character would soon be measured against the cold calculus of material success. Even as the stars emerged one by one, the tension between love and expectation, hope and doubt, promised that Kate's journey with James would be anything but ordinary. The fateful beginnings had sown the seeds of a love story destined to challenge conventions, test bonds, and ultimately redefine what it meant to live a life guided by the heart. On a rainy afternoon, Kate found herself seeking refuge in a quaint little cafe tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The soft patter of rain on the window panes created a rhythm that mirrored the gentle beating of her heart, a constant reminder of the love that had just begun to stir. As she settled into a worn leather chair, lost in her thoughts, the door creaked open, and in walked a man whose presence seemed to immediately alter the very air around him. It was James, his eyes reflecting both kindness and a deep-seated determination. James was not a man defined by the material trappings of life. Rather, he carried an inner richness that shone through in every gesture. Dressed in a simple jacket and worn-out jeans, he exuded an unspoken confidence that transcended appearances. His arrival was unplanned, but his impact was undeniable. As fate would have it, Kate and James found themselves sharing a table when the cafe's owner, recognizing the scarcity of seats on such a rainy day, suggested they join forces for a brief respite from the storm. The conversation that began tentatively soon blossomed into a genuine connection. Kate learned about James's past, a narrative of overcoming obstacles, persevering against the odds, and cherishing the value of hard work and dignity. His words painted a picture of countless struggles, yet each hardship had been met with a resilience that warmed her soul. For James, every setback was a stepping stone, a lesson that honed his character. Kate listened intently, every word deepening her admiration for him. His humble beginnings did not diminish the spark in his eyes. Rather, they illuminated his inner light, a beacon of hope that resonated with her own dreams of a life filled with meaning and passion. As the rain eased into a gentle drizzle, The conversation drifted to lighter topics: childhood memories, favorite books, and shared hopes for the future. Despite the casual air of their exchange, an undercurrent of something profound was unmistakable. Their dialogue was interwoven with moments of laughter and thoughtful silences, each pause filled with unspoken understanding. In that cozy corner of the cafe, Kate experienced a moment of clarity. Love was not about wealth, status, or external validation, but about the quiet strength of a person's soul. Yet, the spark of this budding romance was tempered by a distant worry that lurked in the recesses of Kate's mind. Though she knew deep down that her heart was leading her towards something beautiful, the voice of caution, Richard's voice, echoed faintly, warning her against the perils of choosing love over security. For now, however, those thoughts were tucked away in the background. In the warmth of the moment, with a lingering scent of coffee and rain, Kate allowed herself to believe in the promise of a future where love, genuine and untarnished by societal expectations, would triumph over every obstacle. As they parted ways that day, both felt a magnetic pull, a silent vow that their encounter was not a mere coincidence, but the beginning of an extraordinary journey together. In the days following their serendipitous meeting, Kate's world seemed to shimmer with a promise of new beginnings. Every sunrise carried the excitement of another moment shared with James, and every sunset was a reminder of the deep connection they had forged in that humble cafe. Yet, amidst the heady rush of burgeoning love, a shadow of doubt was cast over her happiness. Richard, ever the vigilant guardian of his sister's future, began to voice his concerns more openly. His disapproval was not born out of mere prejudice. It was a culmination of years of watching the world through a lens where stability was the only true measure of success. Richard's warnings came like echoes in the silent corridors of Kate's mind. During a family dinner, his tone was unusually grave. "Kate, I need you to understand," he said, leaning forward with furrowed brows. "James may have a good heart, but you must be realistic. He's a good man, yes, but a man of means? How will he provide for you when the world turns harsh and unforgiving?" His words, meant to protect her, instead sowed seeds of anxiety. Kate's heart ached at the thought that someone so close to her could harbor such reservations about the man she loved. That night, as Kate lay in bed, the conflict within her became palpable. The room was dark except for the soft glow of the streetlights filtering through the curtains. In the silence, her mind replayed Richard's admonitions over and over. Doubt began to creep in, whispering that perhaps her love for James was built on fragile foundations. But then she remembered the laughter in his eyes, the sincerity of his smile, and the gentle reassurance in his words. It was then that Kate resolved to stand by her heart, no matter how daunting the opposition might seem. Meanwhile, James remained blissfully unaware of the growing storm on the horizon. His days were filled with a quiet determination as he worked tirelessly to build a better future. Every challenge he faced was met with a calm resolve, every setback a lesson to be learned. Yet, even he could sense that something was amiss when Kate seemed to carry an invisible weight, a burden of worry that she could not quite shake off. In one of their late-night conversations, as the city slept around them, Kate hesitated before finally admitting, "Sometimes I feel as if there's a part of me that's afraid of what might come, of what others might say." James reached out, taking her hand in his, and with a quiet intensity replied, "I know there are fears, but let's trust in what we have, in the strength of our love. We will face whatever comes together." Yet, the tension simmering beneath the surface was undeniable. Richard's disapproval had already begun to create subtle rifts, a strain in family gatherings, awkward silences during celebrations, and a persistent tension that no amount of joyful moments could entirely erase. His eyes, once filled with concern for his sister's happiness, now held a flicker of resentment. He believed that love, however beautiful, must be balanced with responsibility, and in his eyes, James had yet to prove himself worthy of Kate's trust. As the weeks turned into months, the whispers of doubt grew louder. Kate found herself caught in a tug-of-war between the compelling allure of her heart and the rational cautions of a protective brother. every loving word from James was met with a counterpoint in her mind, a reminder of the risks that lay ahead. The emotional turmoil was relentless, like an undercurrent threatening to pull her into a vortex of uncertainty. Yet, even in these moments of inner conflict, there was a spark of defiance, a quiet rebellion against the constraints imposed by societal expectations and familial pressure. Kate vowed to explore this love fully, determined to uncover its true depths, no matter what obstacles lay in wait. In a world where material success often defined a person's worth, Kate's decision to choose love over wealth was an act of both rebellion and profound belief. Despite Richard's persistent warnings, she found herself resolutely drawn to James, a man who, despite his modest means, exuded a warmth and resilience that no fortune could buy. The tension between practical security and the intangible magic of genuine connection became the central theme of her inner struggle. One breezy autumn afternoon, Kate invited James to her favorite park, a serene haven where golden leaves danced in the wind. Under the canopy of ancient oaks, the world around them seemed to pause, leaving just the two of them with the quiet murmur of nature as their only companion. There, away from the clamor of everyday life, Kate spoke earnestly about her vision of the future. "I believe that true wealth isn't measured in dollars or possessions," she confided, her eyes reflecting both vulnerability and fierce conviction. "It's in the love we share, the values we hold dear, and the dreams we dare to chase." James listened intently, his gaze soft yet unwavering. He had long known that his journey would be fraught with obstacles, and that societal standards would often cast him in an undeserved light. "I may not have much," he admitted, "but I promise that every step I take is for us, to build a life founded on honesty, perseverance, and love." His words, simple yet profound, resonated deeply with Kate. In that moment, any lingering doubts began to fade away, replaced by a newfound determination to prove that a loving heart could indeed overcome every adversity. The decision to prioritize love over wealth was not merely a rejection of Richard's counsel. It was a declaration of independence. Kate realized that to live a life of regret was far worse than facing the uncertainty of a future built on passion and trust. As the two strolled through the park, they spoke of dreams and possibilities, each conversation weaving a tapestry of hope that defied the bleak predictions of a society that valued wealth above all else. Yet, the road ahead promised challenges. The specter of Richard's disapproval loomed large, casting a long shadow over what should have been moments of unbridled joy. Every time Kate recalled her brother's stern warning, a pang of guilt mingled with defiance tightened her resolve. She knew that choosing James meant embracing a future where every achievement would have to be earned through blood, sweat, and relentless determination. That day, as the park sun dipped below the horizon, Kate felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. She was ready to embark on this journey, come what may. Every obstacle was simply a test of their commitment, every hardship a chance to grow stronger. In the soft twilight, with the rustling leaves as their witness, Kate and James forged a silent pact, an unspoken promise that their love, built on the solid foundation of trust and resilience, would be the guiding star in the darkest of nights. This was a love that would thrive not because it was easy, but because it was real, challenging the very notion that true wealth was measured by material success. The day of their wedding arrived with a gentle brilliance that seemed to mirror the couple's inner joy. The church, an old stone building adorned with ivy and delicate wildflowers, became the stage for a ceremony that was as much a testament to love as it was a defiance of societal expectations. As Kate walked down the aisle in a simple yet elegant gown, each step resonated with a quiet assurance that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Her eyes searched the congregation for a glimpse of Richard's approval, yet instead she found only a mirror of concern shadowed by disapproval. James stood at the altar, dressed in a crisp suit that contrasted starkly with his humble origins. His eyes, however, told a story far deeper than the fabric he wore. They spoke of sacrifice, hope, and an unwavering commitment to the love that had blossomed between them. As they exchanged vows, every word was imbued with emotion. Kate spoke of a love that transcended material wealth, a love that had found its home in the quiet corners of their souls. James, in turn, promised to honor and cherish her, pledging to build a future where every challenge would be met with courage and resilience. The ceremony unfolded under the watchful gaze of friends and family. For many, the union was an embodiment of an ideal that defied conventional wisdom, a testament that love could triumph over doubt and prejudice. Yet, amidst the celebratory clamor, there lingered a palpable tension. Richard's absence from the front row was as loud as any spoken word of dissent. His decision to boycott the ceremony, a silent protest against what he saw as a reckless choice, cast a subtle pall over an otherwise joyous day. As the couple stepped out into the warm embrace of the afternoon sun for their wedding reception, the air was filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. Under twinkling lights, amidst heartfelt speeches and tender embraces, Kate and James danced as if the world had faded away, leaving only the rhythm of their hearts to guide them. Every step, every whispered promise, was a silent rebuke to the voices of doubt that had once threatened to drown out their love. Yet, even in the midst of celebration, Kate's mind could not entirely escape the weight of Richard's disapproval. There were moments when her eyes would drift to an empty seat where her brother should have been, and a sharp pang of regret would twist in her heart. However, as she locked eyes with James, she was reminded of the strength of their commitment, a bond forged in the fires of adversity, tempered by trust, and sealed by a love that was unwavering. That evening, as the celebrations drew to a close and the echoes of laughter mingled with the soft strains of a final ballad, Kate felt both elation and melancholy. The wedding had been a victory, a declaration that love was worth every sacrifice. But it had also marked the beginning of a journey fraught with challenges, a journey that would test the mettle of their bond in ways neither could have foreseen. With every passing moment, the wedding bells resonated not only with the promise of a shared future, but also with the bittersweet reminder that some battles were yet to be fought. In the years that followed their wedding, Kate and James began to construct a life that was as much about dreams as it was about hard work. James threw himself into every venture with a relentless determination that often left those around him in quiet awe. His small business, started from nothing more than a spark of ambition and a few borrowed tools, gradually evolved into a beacon of hope and perseverance. Each day, he labored with the conviction that every drop of sweat was an investment in their future, a future where love and diligence would rewrite the rules of success. The early mornings were filled with the hum of busy streets and the clatter of coffee cups, as James would leave the modest apartment long before sunrise. By day, he immersed himself in projects that required not only technical skill, but also creative ingenuity. Whether it was negotiating with suppliers or meticulously planning the next phase of expansion, every task was approached with a measured calm and unwavering focus. There were moments when exhaustion threatened to overpower him, yet he never faltered, driven by the promise he had made to Kate. His determination was a quiet rebellion against the naysayers who had once dismissed him as unworthy. Kate, meanwhile, supported him every step of the way. She managed the home front with a steadfast dedication, ensuring that their sanctuary was filled with warmth and encouragement. In the evenings, as she prepared simple yet nourishing meals, she would listen with pride as James recounted the day's small victories. Their conversations were laced with hope and occasional humor, each shared moment reinforcing their belief in a future built on mutual respect and undying love. Despite the progress, the path was not without its hurdles. The financial constraints that had once seemed insurmountable reared their head during long, challenging nights. There were days when the weight of responsibility felt unbearable, and the dream of a better life seemed just beyond reach. Yet each obstacle only served to ignite a deeper flame within James. His passion for success was not driven by the pursuit of wealth alone, but by the desire to prove that love, paired with perseverance, could transform even the bleakest circumstances. In quiet moments of solitude, when the world around him was hushed by the night, James would often gaze out the window at the distant city lights, each one a symbol of possibility. Those reflections were accompanied by memories of his early days, days marked by hardship, yet also by the resilient spirit that had defined him from the start. Every setback was a lesson learned, every failure a stepping stone towards the empire he dreamed of building. Kate marveled at the transformation in her husband. The man who had once been dismissed as a dreamer was now emerging as a formidable force in his own right. Their life, though still modest in its trappings, was becoming richer in every sense of the word. With every project completed, with every new contract signed, the foundation of their shared future grew stronger. And though the specter of Richard's disapproval still loomed in the background, it began to fade in the face of undeniable progress, a silent testament to the power of determination and the transformative nature of love. In the soft glow of a late autumn evening, as they sat together on the worn porch swing, Kate looked at James with admiration and quiet wonder. Their journey was far from over, but in that moment it was clear that every sacrifice, every moment of doubt, had been a necessary part of building something truly remarkable. Their dreams, woven together with threads of hope and hard work, promised a future where success was defined not by the weight of gold, but by the depth of one's character and the resilience of the human spirit. The passage of time brought with it both triumphs and trials, and Kate and James found themselves engaged in silent battles that tested the very core of their relationship. Every new day seemed to come with a dual challenge, pursuing the dream James was tirelessly building while navigating the undercurrents of disapproval that threatened their harmony. The victories in business were often accompanied by private moments of doubt, and the late-night conversations that once brimmed with hope sometimes gave way to unspoken tensions. As James's enterprise began to grow, the pressures of responsibility weighed heavily on him. The long hours, the financial risks, and the constant need to prove his worth to a skeptical world left him with an undercurrent of stress that he tried desperately to hide. Kate, always sensitive to his moods, often found herself playing the role of both confidant and pillar of strength. While the success of his ventures brought a sense of pride to both of them, it also intensified the private struggles that came with unrelenting ambition. James would return home exhausted, his eyes shadowed by the burdens of unspoken worries. In those quiet moments, Kate would wrap him in a gentle embrace, silently promising that they would face every challenge together. Yet, amid the fervor of building a better future, there lingered the ever-present ghost of Richard's disapproval. Occasionally, a business meeting or a celebratory dinner would be marred by the thought of his scornful eyes, and Kate would feel the sting of unspoken judgment. Richard's voice, ever pragmatic, ever cautioning, echoed in the back of her mind, threatening to cast doubt on every success they achieved. She recalled the long nights of heartfelt conversations where she had defended their choices, her words a mix of tender affection and fiery conviction. Each argument had left an indelible mark, a reminder that the battle for true acceptance was as much about changing hearts as it was about proving one's worth. Within the walls of their modest home, Kate created a sanctuary where love reigned supreme over every challenge. The little living room, adorned with keepsakes and mementos of their shared journey, became a refuge where laughter mingled with whispered reassurances. Over cups of chamomile tea and quiet dinners by candlelight, they reaffirmed their commitment to one another. Kate often reminded James that every battle fought in silence was a testament to their strength, a quiet resilience that even the harshest of storms could not break. But even in the embrace of this sanctuary, the external world continued its relentless march. There were times when unexpected setbacks in the business world threatened to undo years of hard work. When contracts fell through and opportunities slipped away, James wrestled with a crushing weight of self-doubt. It was during these moments that Kate's unwavering support shone brightest. With a gentle smile and a steady hand, she would remind him that every fall was simply a prelude to a greater rise. "Our love," she would whisper, "is the foundation that will keep us standing, no matter how fierce the storm." Though the battles were often silent, they were deeply felt. Every shared glance, every tender touch, carried the weight of unspoken promises and hopes for a future where their dreams would stand tall. In the quiet struggles of everyday life, Kate and James learned that true strength was born not from the absence of hardship, but from the courage to face it together. And as they continued to build their lives, each challenge became a stepping stone, a testament to the enduring power of love, resilience, and the unyielding belief that together they could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. As the years passed, the divergent paths of ambition and tradition began to reveal themselves in ways that neither Kate nor James could have fully anticipated. On one hand, James was steadily building a business empire, one that was slowly transforming the world around him with innovative ideas and an unwavering commitment to excellence. His relentless pursuit of success was a source of inspiration, a tangible demonstration that a humble beginning could indeed lead to greatness. On the other hand, Kate's world was expanding into territories of her own, territories where she began to explore passions and talents that had long lain dormant beneath the surface of domestic life. Kate started taking classes in art and literature, discovering that her creative spirit was a vital part of who she was. The evenings that were once spent solely in the comforting embrace of home were now filled with gallery visits, poetry readings, and quiet moments of reflection at local cafes. In these moments, she found herself drifting away from the singular focus on their shared dream and into a realm where personal growth and self-discovery took center stage. The delicate balance between supporting James's ambitions and pursuing her own dreams began to create a subtle but undeniable tension between them. Meanwhile, Richard's own journey through the corporate world was gathering pace. Having risen steadily through the ranks of a prestigious company, he was now a key player in boardroom decisions and strategic planning. His once dismissive attitude towards James had hardened into a firm belief that practicality was the only route to security. With every corporate victory, his conviction that Kate's choices were misguided grew stronger. His world was one of clear-cut rules and measurable success, a stark contrast to the fluid, ever-evolving realm of passion and art that Kate was beginning to inhabit. Despite their diverging pursuits, there was an undercurrent of mutual respect and enduring love that had long defined Kate and James's relationship. In the quiet hours of the night, when the hustle of the day faded into silence, they would still find solace in each other's arms. Their conversations were interspersed with discussions about art, business, and the dreams that had once united them. Yet, as they shared these intimate moments, an unspoken question hovered in the background. Could a relationship survive when each partner was growing in such distinct ways? The tension came to a head one crisp winter evening. After a long day filled with meetings and creative endeavors, Kate and James sat together in their living room, the soft light of a crackling fire casting dancing shadows on the walls. Kate spoke with a gentle hesitance. "I feel like we're on different journeys now. I'm discovering parts of myself that I never knew existed, and I wonder if our paths will continue to intersect as they once did." James, whose eyes were etched with both understanding and a trace of sorrow, replied, "I too feel the weight of our separate dreams. But isn't it possible that these divergences are just different strands of the same tapestry? I will always be devoted to you, Kate, even as we both explore who we are." Their words, filled with both hope and a lingering uncertainty, carried the bittersweet realization that love sometimes required a delicate balance between togetherness and individual growth. As the fire dwindled to embers, they sat in reflective silence, each lost in thoughts of what the future might hold. The world outside, with its relentless pace and shifting landscapes, seemed to mirror the inner workings of their hearts, complex, unpredictable, and filled with both promise and peril. Though their paths were momentarily diverging, there was an unspoken promise that the love which had brought them together would, in time, guide them back into alignment. In that tender moment of vulnerability, Kate and James reaffirmed a quiet vow to nurture not only their shared dreams, but also the individual passions that made them whole. And so in the space between divergence and union, they continued forward, each step marked by both uncertainty and the steadfast belief that love, in its many forms, was worth every risk. In the quiet aftermath of their personal transformations, echoes of the past began to resurface like long-forgotten melodies. The secrets that had been locked away in the recesses of memory started to whisper through the corridors of Kate and James's life. It began subtly, a misplaced photograph here, an old letter there, each piece hinting at histories that had never been fully told. For Kate, these fragments of the past were bittersweet reminders of her journey from innocence to self-realization. For James, they were a call to reconcile the man he had once been with the empire he was painstakingly building. Late one evening, as a storm raged outside and the wind howled like a chorus of lost souls, Kate discovered an old journal tucked away in a dusty corner of their shared study. Its pages were yellowed with age and filled with the delicate handwriting of someone who had known both hope and heartbreak. As she read through the entries, she uncovered secrets of her own, a narrative of struggles and triumphs that had shaped her into the woman she had become. Each word was a testament to a past filled with moments of vulnerability, courage, and resilience. In those pages, she recognized the echoes of her own dreams, but also the pain of decisions made long ago. For James, secrets of the past were equally potent. There were stories of youthful mistakes, fleeting romances, and moments of despair that had been buried under layers of time and ambition. One rainy afternoon, as he worked late into the night, James stumbled upon a box of mementos from his early days. Within it lay relics of a time when his hopes were fragile and his future uncertain. A faded scarf from a long-gone love, a torn letter of apology, and photographs that captured a different era of his life. Confronted by these remnants, James felt a stirring of emotions he had long suppressed. It was as if each object was a key to a door he had shut tight, a door that now creaked open with both nostalgia and regret. The revelations of the past were not meant to undermine the present, but rather to illuminate the journey that had brought them to this very moment. In quiet conversations with Kate, James began to share snippets of his earlier life. Stories of youthful ambition, moments of despair, and the gradual transformation that had led him to build a life that defied expectations. With every confession, the air between them grew richer, layered with understanding and mutual empathy. Kate, too, found herself opening up about her own hidden scars and long-held dreams, revealing to James the delicate interplay of hope and hardship that had defined her journey. Yet, as these secrets were laid bare, they also cast shadows on the fragile present. The old wounds and past regrets had a way of resurfacing when least expected, challenging the newfound harmony in their lives. There were nights when both Kate and James lay awake, haunted by the echoes of memories that refused to fade. But in the midst of these revelations, there was also a profound realization. Every secret, every hidden truth, was a piece of the puzzle that made them who they were. Embracing these parts of themselves, they began to understand that the journey to true love was paved not only with shared dreams, but also with the acceptance of a past that could never be changed. In the flickering candlelight of that stormy night, as the rain battered against the windows and the distant thunder echoed like a long-forgotten lullaby, Kate and James reached a silent accord. They would face the shadows of the past together, using them as stepping stones toward a future defined by honesty, resilience, and an unbreakable bond. The secrets of the past, once a source of hidden pain, became a foundation upon which they rebuilt their trust, an enduring promise that every scar was a mark of survival, and every whispered secret was a reminder of the strength found in vulnerability. As the seasons shifted and winter melted into spring, a tide of transformation began to sweep through James's professional world. His once small business, founded on the principles of determination and humility, started to attract attention from investors, industry experts, and even the media. Every small victory, every contract signed, and every partnership forged felt like a resounding affirmation of his vision, a vision that had always been fueled by the belief that true success was not measured solely in dollars, but in the impact one left on the world. With every passing day, the enterprise grew in both scope and ambition. James poured his heart and soul into every venture, his focus sharpened by the knowledge that this was not just a business, but a testament to his journey. Late nights in the office turned into early mornings filled with a hum of innovation and the spark of creative ideas. The rising tide of success, however, was not without its challenges. Each breakthrough came with its own set of pressures, demanding deadlines, high-stakes negotiations, and the constant scrutiny of competitors who doubted the worth of a man who had once been dismissed as unworthy. Yet, with every obstacle, James's resolve only grew stronger. Kate watched with quiet pride as her husband navigated the turbulent waters of corporate ambition. Though her own path had taken a more artistic and introspective turn, she remained deeply connected to the dreams they had once shared. In the quiet moments between her own creative endeavors, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. A journey marked by sacrifice, resilience, and the unyielding belief that love could overcome every obstacle. Their home, now a sanctuary of shared dreams and quiet determination, buzzed with the energy of progress and hope. In boardrooms and business meetings, James's presence began to command respect. His quiet charisma, combined with an intellect honed by years of struggle and perseverance, earned him recognition even among the most hardened corporate executives. The once dismissed dreamer was now a formidable force, a man whose humble beginnings were but a prologue to the empire he was building. With every deal struck, the rising tide of success grew stronger, carrying with it the promise of a future where every hardship was transformed into triumph. Yet, amid the swelling waves of achievement, James remained grounded. His eyes never lost sight of the values that had guided him through the darkest of times. The letters of encouragement from Kate, the quiet nods of respect from colleagues, and the lingering memory of a love that had always been his true anchor all served as reminders that every victory was not merely a personal triumph, but a celebration of the human spirit. In the soft moments after a long day of hard work, when the glow of success began to reflect in his eyes, James would often whisper a quiet thanks to Kate, to his past struggles, and to the unwavering belief that had carried him through every storm. As the tide of success continued to rise, it brought with it an undeniable sense of destiny. Every challenge, every moment of doubt, had led to this crescendo of accomplishment. And in the midst of this rising tide, Kate and James found themselves standing together on the precipice of a future that promised not only wealth and recognition, but the deeper, more enduring riches of a life lived with purpose, passion, and love. Richard's ascent in the corporate world had been meteoric. Now a senior executive in one of the nation's most prestigious companies, he was celebrated for his strategic acumen, his steadfast commitment to excellence, and his unyielding pursuit of success. Yet, beneath the polished veneer of boardroom triumphs and business accolades, Richard harbored an inner turmoil that grew with each passing day. The corporate world was one of rigid hierarchies and cold calculations, values that had always been the cornerstone of his own existence. And yet, those very values were being challenged by the unexpected evolution of the man who had once been dismissed as unworthy, James. For Richard, the emergence of James from obscurity to prominence was a source of both professional envy and personal disquiet. It wasn't just that James had achieved what many believed impossible. It was that his success was built on the very qualities that Richard had long regarded as secondary: integrity, perseverance, and a commitment to something far greater than mere financial gain. In the hushed corridors of his company's sleek headquarters, Richard began to hear whispers about the new CEO, a man whose humble origins and unassuming nature belied the formidable empire he was constructing. With every mention of this enigmatic leader, Richard's heart pounded with a mixture of disbelief and quiet fury. During board meetings and corporate events, Richard would cast sidelong glances toward the door, as if expecting the very embodiment of his doubts to appear at any moment. His carefully curated image of success was being challenged by a man who did not conform to the rigid expectations of his world. Yet, despite the mounting pressure, Richard maintained his stoic exterior, masking his internal conflict with measured words and calculated decisions. In his private moment, however, he found himself grappling with the realization that the parameters of success he had held so dearly might not be the only path to a meaningful life. Outside the corporate battlefield, Richard's personal life was a study in controlled isolation. The disapproval he harbored for Kate's choices had grown into a silent barrier, a wall built from years of conviction that he had no room for the unpredictable variables of love and character. As he navigated the labyrinth of high-stakes business deals and intricate power plays, the memory of his sister's defiant choice to follow her heart began to cast long shadows over his achievements. In the mirror of his own reflection, he saw the stark contrast between a man defined by measurable success and one who had dared to believe in something far more elusive. Richard's internal struggle reached a crescendo during a late-night review of corporate strategy documents. In the quiet of his expansive office, he allowed himself a moment of vulnerability, silently acknowledging that the world was changing in ways he had never anticipated. The towering skyscrapers outside his window, symbols of a relentless pursuit of progress, now seemed to whisper a truth that he could no longer ignore. Success was not solely defined by wealth or status, but by the courage to be true to oneself, even if that truth lay in the unexpected rise of someone he had once condemned. In that solitary moment, as the city's lights blurred into a mosaic of possibilities, Richard felt the first tremors of doubt that would eventually lead him down a path of painful self-discovery. It was an unassuming Tuesday morning when fate delivered its most astonishing revelation to Richard, a moment that would forever alter the course of his beliefs. The prestigious company he had long served was hosting its annual shareholders' meeting, a gathering where the brightest minds of the corporate world were expected to showcase the fruits of their labor. Richard, confident in the success of the firm and his own contributions to its legacy, arrived with the assured stride of a man who knew his worth. Yet, as the meeting commenced and the CEO took the stage, his eyes widened in disbelief. Standing before the board of directors and an audience of eager investors was James, the very man he had scorned as a pauper, a man whose humble beginnings were a stark contrast to the polished persona of corporate leadership. The shock that coursed through Richard's veins was more than just professional astonishment. It was a personal upheaval that shook the foundations of his carefully constructed world. In that moment, every past warning, every whispered doubt about James's capabilities crumbled into insignificance. The man who had once seemed an unworthy match for his sister was now the architect of a thriving empire, a living testament to the power of determination and authenticity. The room buzzed with murmurs of admiration and surprise, and every glance that Richard stole confirmed the undeniable truth. James had built his empire through grit, hard work, and an unwavering commitment to his vision. As the CEO continued with his address, outlining a bold strategy for the company's future, Richard sat frozen, his mind a turbulent mix of admiration, regret, and a dawning realization that he had been blinded by preconceived notions. In the meticulously crafted slides and carefully chosen words, there was an underlying narrative of resilience, a narrative that stood in stark contrast to the shallow metrics of wealth that Richard had long revered. With every word James spoke, Richard's inner world shifted. The echoes of his own past, filled with pride and rigid determination, began to soften into a reluctant acceptance that the true measure of a man's worth was not the size of his bank account, but the depth of his character and the strength of his perseverance. After the meeting, Richard lingered in the corridor, struggling to collect his thoughts. The revelation was both exhilarating and excruciating. It was as if the mask he had worn for so long, a mask of superiority and unyielding practicality, was cracking, exposing vulnerabilities he had never allowed himself to acknowledge. In that solitary moment, as the echoes of applause faded into the background, Richard realized that he was at a crossroads. The man he had once despised for his perceived inadequacies was now the embodiment of everything he had failed to understand about success and integrity. And with that realization came the painful admission that he, too, had been a victim of his own narrow perspective. Haunted by the revelation, Richard resolved to uncover every detail of James's journey, determined to understand how a man he had so vehemently dismissed had risen to such prominence. He began an internal quest for answers, one that would force him to confront the deep-seated biases and misconceptions that had defined his life for so long. This was no longer a simple matter of professional rivalry. It was a profound reckoning with the very essence of his identity. In the quiet hours of that transformative morning, As he replayed every moment of the meeting in his mind, Richard knew that the road ahead would demand an unflinching examination of everything he had once taken for granted. And so, with a heavy heart and a mind awash in uncertainty, he stepped into a future where the truth was unmasked, an irrevocable truth that would forever alter the landscape of his beliefs. In the aftermath of that fateful revelation, the atmosphere at home grew thick with tension, a tension that could no longer be hidden behind polite smiles or fleeting reassurances. Richard's discovery had ignited a firestorm of conflicting emotions, and soon it was time for the inevitable confrontation. The living room of the family home, usually a sanctuary of warmth and shared memories, became the stage for a turbulent exchange that would force every member to confront the truths they had long avoided. Kate had sensed that something was amiss for weeks. The air around her felt charged, and despite the success and joy that had blossomed from her marriage with James, there was now a palpable distance, a cold silence that spoke volumes of unspoken resentments. One crisp evening, as the rain tapped softly against the windows, Richard finally broke his silence. His voice, usually so measured and controlled, trembled with a mix of anger, regret, and disbelief. "Kate," he began, his eyes darting between the couple with a piercing intensity, "I need to understand. How did man I once dismissed as unworthy come to command an empire? How did you let him?" His words were laced with bitterness, each syllable a reminder of the years of warning and the burden of a love that he had always thought was misplaced. Kate's heart sank as she absorbed her brother's harsh tone. She had long known that Richard's disapproval was not a passing phase, but a fundamental clash of values, a battle between pragmatism and the unpredictable nature of true love. With a calm that belied the inner storm, she replied, "Richard, it wasn't a decision made lightly. I saw something in James that you refused to see, a strength that wasn't measured by wealth, but by heart. Our love is not a gamble. It is the most genuine part of who we are." Her voice wavered slightly, a mixture of sadness and conviction, as she recounted the countless moments when James's kindness and resilience had shone through the darkest of times. James, who had listened in quiet agony to the mounting accusations, finally stepped forward. His presence was both reassuring and formidable, a silent declaration that he would no longer be diminished by the prejudices of the past. "I understand your doubts, Richard," he said, his tone steady and measured. "But I have always believed that success is not defined by what one possesses, but by what one can create with passion and hard work. I may not have started with riches, but I have built a future through perseverance, integrity, and unwavering dedication." His words, spoken with the quiet force of someone who had fought against all odds, resonated in the stillness of the room. The confrontation escalated as Richard's anger grew, his words now tinged with personal regret. "You are nothing more than a dreamer, a fool blinded by sentiment," he spat, unable to reconcile the man before him with the image he had once held. But in the face of such vehement opposition, Kate and James stood together, united not only by their love, but by the truth that had been revealed in the boardroom. The heated exchange lasted well into the night, with emotions flaring and deep-seated resentments laid bare. Yet, amid the storm of accusations and defensive retorts, there was also a glimmer of understanding, a dawning realization that the values they held were not inherently wrong, but simply different. By the end of the confrontation, the living room was strewn with remnants of shattered expectations and wounded pride. Richard retreated into a silence that was as profound as it was painful, while Kate and James clung to each other in the quiet aftermath. There was no immediate resolution, only the raw truth of a love that had weathered the fiercest of storms. In that fragile, charged silence, each of them was left to ponder the cost of their convictions and the possibility that perhaps true understanding required more than words. It demanded a willingness to see beyond the surface and embrace the complexities of the human spirit. In the weeks that followed the explosive confrontation, Richard found himself in a solitude marked by introspection and regret. The images of that night, the raw emotion, the painful truths, haunted him in quiet moments. He began to question every judgment he had made, every assumption about what it meant to be successful and worthy. The rigid structures he had so long relied on began to crumble as he faced the possibility that his criteria for worth were as shallow as they were inflexible. Late at night, Richard would sit by his window, staring out at the glittering city lights, each a silent witness to a world that was far more complex than the one he had always known. In those moments, the harsh voices of the boardroom and the calculated decisions he had once made seemed insignificant compared to the raw, unfiltered truth of human experience. The recollection of James's calm, determined gaze during their confrontation began to erode the walls of prejudice that Richard had meticulously built around himself. He started to immerse himself in literature and art, fields he had once dismissed as frivolous pursuits. And in doing so, he discovered a wealth of perspectives that challenged his long-held convictions. A chance encounter with an old friend who had experienced a similar awakening further deepened Richard's introspection. Over cups of bitter coffee in a dimly lit cafe, the friend shared his own journey from rigidity to acceptance, recounting how life had taught him that the true measure of a person was not in the balance sheets, but in the scars they bore and the resilience they displayed in the face of adversity. Each new day became a lesson in humility for Richard. He sought out stories of perseverance, of individuals who had overcome insurmountable odds not through inherited wealth or privileged beginnings, but through sheer determination and an unyielding belief in the human spirit. Slowly, he began to understand that the success of James was not an aberration, but a testament to the power of hard work, character, and the kind of love that defied societal expectations. In quiet moments of reflection, Richard started to write his own thoughts, tentative, unpolished musings that chronicled his evolving understanding of life, success, and the human heart. His writings, raw and honest, became a mirror to the person he had once been and the person he was slowly beginning to realize he could become. The process was painful, filled with moments of regret and sorrow for the lost years steeped in judgment and isolation. Yet, there was also a liberating clarity that came with each new realization, a growing recognition that every person, regardless of their beginnings, possessed an inherent worth that defied conventional metrics. As spring gave way to summer, Richard reached a turning point. The lessons in humility had not only softened his once impenetrable exterior, but had also opened his eyes to the possibility of reconciliation. He began to reach out to those he had once dismissed, to bridge the gaps that had widened with the passing years. In the quiet intimacy of these small, courageous steps, he found a measure of peace, a promise that true worth was defined not by the material, but by the depth of one's soul and the willingness to embrace life in all its messy, beautiful complexity. The days had grown longer and the nights gentler by the time the final act of this long, tumultuous journey began to take shape. In the soft glow of a summer evening, when the world seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of change, Richard found himself standing at the threshold of a reunion he never thought possible. With a heart both heavy and hopeful, he made his way to the modest home that Kate and James had built, a home that had become a sanctuary of love, perseverance, and quiet triumph against all odds. The reunion was not orchestrated with grand gestures or elaborate ceremonies, but with the raw honesty of a man determined to atone for years of misguided judgment. As the door swung open, Kate greeted him with a mixture of cautious warmth and guarded curiosity. In that moment, as the years of estrangement melted away into the summer dusk, there was a silent acknowledgement that something profound was about to change. James, standing by Kate's side, extended a hand not in anger, but in quiet acceptance, a gesture that spoke of forgiveness and a deep-seated understanding that the journey to redemption was as much about letting go as it was about moving forward. In the gentle cadence of the evening, Richard spoke with a humility that resonated with every soul in the room. "I have spent so long clinging to a notion of success that was as narrow as it was unforgiving," he confessed, his voice trembling with vulnerability. "I was blinded by the false belief that wealth and status defined a man's worth. But tonight, I see clearly that true success is measured in the kindness of our actions, the strength of our character, and the love we share with those who matter most." His words, laden with regret and sincere remorse, hung in the air as a testament to the power of introspection and the possibility of change. Kate and James exchanged glances that carried decades of shared memories, of love that had weathered storms and battles, fought both silently and openly. In that tender moment, they welcomed Richard into their lives not as the man he had once been, but as a changed soul, humbled by the journey and ready to embrace the truth that had eluded him for so long. The evening unfolded with quiet conversations over tea, laughter that bridged years of separation, and a palpable sense of reconciliation that mended the once fractured bonds of family. As the night deepened, the three of them sat together on the back porch, the stars overhead a silent audience to the unfolding redemption. The air was filled with unspoken promises, a commitment to move forward with empathy, to honor the lessons of the past, and to build a future where the measure of a person's worth was defined not by the glitter of wealth, but by the light of their character and the depth of their love. Richard's journey from judgment to acceptance had been arduous, marked by painful introspection and the shedding of long-held prejudices. Yet in that luminous summer night, as the cool breeze whispered of new beginnings, it was clear that redemption was possible, and reconciliation was a gift that could heal even the deepest of wounds. In the gentle unfolding of that evening, every shared smile and every heartfelt word was a victory over the rigid constraints of the past, a declaration that love, in all its messy, unpredictable beauty, was the true measure of success. With hearts unburdened and spirits renewed, Kate, James, and Richard embraced the future, each step taken together a quiet testament to the enduring power of forgiveness, growth, and the unbreakable bonds of family.